So VTS, we don't have to just use it with literature, we can use it across the disciplines. So the next couple of slides, I'm going to take you on a journey across the disciplines, okay? And just to give you a little background on where we were with teaching reading 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th in science and social studies and math, we used to teach it in the terms of content area literacy, and that's where we were for like the last 25 years. And a good example of explaining that is we would take strategies, literacy-based strategies, and just put them across the content area. So back in the day, I might take KWL and apply it to the periodic table of the elements in a chemistry class. Well, the problem is it doesn't necessarily work with the periodic table of elements in the chemistry class. But that's how we were trying to address the reading problems across the content area. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So we finally realized, probably about 7 or 8 years ago, that we need to go deeper into the disciplines and really look at the experts in the disciplines and how they do their practice, and you know, bring that down into the classrooms. And so somebody here was talking about, was it Avi was talking about how we don't teach students to write as professional writers, right? Well, it's the same thing that's going on in our history and science and math classes. So a little background about disciplinary literacy. We want to bring alive the ways of knowing and communicating in the disciplines, okay? So we want to study what experts do out in the field and bring that right into the classroom. So we're asking our students to explore text just as historians do, mathematicians do, and scientists do. The same thinking practices, the same vocabulary, the same discourse. Finally, we're celebrating the discipline, because the complaint has always been, I'm not a reading teacher, I'm a science teacher, I'm a history teacher. You all know what I'm talking about? Who are my secondary people in here? 1, 2, okay, you know what I'm talking about. So finally, we're celebrating you, and we're saying, just go and run away with what you do with your text in your classroom. So we know that each discipline has its own structure and its own background knowledge of how to read that type of text, and it requires a particular form of reading. So we used to say that text was print. We're now celebrating pictures and graphs, and for the PE teacher, text is performance. So somebody running down the field and catching a ball can be interpreted and can be comprehended. There's no print going on, it's movement, and that's still text, and we're finally celebrating that. So, as I started this conversation, we're moving away from applying these generic reading strategies to more discipline-specific reading strategies. And I'm going to show you first off how to take VTS across the disciplines. Okay, what's going on in this picture?
There's colors.
Yeah, there's colors. So I hear you saying that there's colors, right?
It's like the elements like categories.
Yeah. Alkaline metals.
There appear to be abbreviations for each element.
Okay, so we see abbreviations, and we also see categories. What do you see that makes you say that you see categories?
They're labeled there, like noble gases, non-metals.
That's pretty good that you can read that from back there.
Yeah, I'm surprised myself.
Yes?
I think they're also in order, in ascending order from their, like, maybe their ionic number or something like that.
Oh.
I don't know if it's
Going
ionic.
this way?
No. Atomic, sorry.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Across. Left to right.
Going this way. Ascending order. What else?
There's also a key down below where it says atomic number, that's what that is, element symbol, element name, atomic mass, so it kind of gives you a key about what all those different things mean on every single one.
Okay, so you see a key to interpret the text.
Mm-hmm.
What else do we see in this picture?
There's something missing. So like it goes 57 and then it stops and it goes 58 all the way to something. I don't know, I'm trying to figure out where the stuff at the bottom goes.
These numbers? Oh, down here.
Yeah, like where does that belong? It seems to be
So
like
where
an
does it
intersection.
belong? Why is it here?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Intersection from something.
What's going on in this picture?
Movement.
Colonial trade routes. And you're welcome to come up closely if you need to see it.
Yeah.
So we see
Imports, exports.
imports, exports. How do you know that? What makes you say that?
The key.
Up here?
The arrows are giving us direction.
Okay.
So we go from German parts to exports.
What else is going on in this picture?
Slaves. Enslaved persons.
I think the description of what was on the ship at the time. So we have, I can't read them, but they said enslaved, and then I think over here on the red, going up, it looks like,
Sugar, molasses,
Yeah.
fruit.
so I think we're getting an idea of what was being traded.
So you're seeing what was on the ship going from one place to the next. Okay.
So it gives you an idea of what each area actually has.
Their resources.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The resources they were producing and trading. What else do you see in this picture?
Seems to be only from 3 different areas. The British colonies, Great Britain, oh no, maybe 4. West Indies, and Africa. 4 different areas.
Anything more that we can find in this picture?
These are areas ruled by Britain.
Yeah.
Green.
We know that from various springs.
I was just going to say, what do you see that makes you say that? And somebody just said, you know that from your prior knowledge. Did anyone notice the typography in this piece? You're shaking your head. What do you want to say about that?
Are bold and almost italicized, the other one's almost like smaller print.
Uh-huh.
Different font maybe.
Tell me more about the font.
They're all in caps, but they're also, I mean, Great Britain is really the one that stands out, because other ones,
North America's gold.
they're two
Right.
British colonies. It doesn't really specifically go into like capital state. Obviously, there's not much going on there, but the actual specific cities, like those are all kind of blanked out.
So we're just
Categorized
seeing the
as-
countries or the
Yeah,
areas.
the general geographic regions.
And the similarity?
Oh. That's right.
The first thing I noticed was this,
Dark.
this,
Yeah.
and then how
All of
I
the-
studied typography, so that's what struck me first about the map.
Oh.
And I'm wondering why.
To categorize them? North America and Africa are continents. Maybe.
In Europe and South America, the font isn't as.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if it has to be or.
Yeah, so why are these fonts,
Different.
yeah,
Yeah.
faded?
They're not in their routes.
Yeah, definitely.
Not part of
And we might say because these are in bold print and thicker, do they play a bigger role in this map? We have to wonder that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but in asking all those questions, I mean, I would almost be hoping, like, for it to transfer to, like, their own use of fonts and typography in their own documents, right?
Yeah, we're hoping to
Perhaps.
promote some map reading skills and transfer those skills over to other types of text. Good point.
And textbooks. Textbook publishers are notorious for varying the kinds of fonts and styles, so
Purposefully.
purposely.
And ask him why. Why is this going on? Okay, for all of you in here who are now teachers, I didn't want to leave you out. What's going on in this picture?
I see an incredibly efficient method of finding roots. Quadratic equation. It's the perfection that is the quadratic formula. Derived from a standard quadratic equation, x squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and then solve for x. It's used to find the x-intercepts in the parabola. You can find all x-intercepts, rational, irrational, imaginary, real. It's kind of an amazing formula. Has 4 variables,
And you say that with pride, too.
Yeah, of course, you should.
Yeah, I was like, I actually really project.
It's kind of beautiful.
I want to paraphrase what you just said, but I can't even keep up with you.
So yeah, you got the three letters B, A, and C, which you derive from the three numbers that would be in a quadratic equation, which is not included. And then those would be plugged into this formula, and that would result in, if you were to solve that, the x or the x-intercepts of where that particular equation, if graphed, would cross the x-axis. That's what we're at.
Wow. Yes.
Good example of another discourse.
Yes, yes. The register.
Yes.
Okay, I agree with Jeff. Okay, so in third grade we always teach the students that equal doesn't necessarily mean answer, it means balance. So I know whatever's happening on this side is the same as X, or they're the same. But I agree.
So you're looking at, you know that this is telling you that there's a balance between this side and this side.
Yeah, because that's the only symbol I would.
Okay. I think for me too. What more can you
There's
see?
a square root symbol. I recognize that.
Uh-huh.
And I recognize the minus and the plus. That means they're both, like you're going to end up with two different answers.
Excellent.
Negatives usually means like the opposite of, like minus B or negative B, like the opposite of. I'm not exactly sure, but that's what I think. And then the line means there's a division happening. So all of the top is being divided by the bottom. So yeah, I think that's how it goes. And then you'll probably plug in numbers for all those letters. Or you would either solving for X or solving for something else. That's my algebra experience. That's all I remember.
What more can we find in this?
Pretty picture.
Well, and you have to have a lot of knowledge to interpret it, to interpret all of these symbols. There's a lot going on in this equation. And one thing I want to point out is what you just did here was a think aloud, which is what we want to do in our classrooms as well, is think out loud how we work through equations, why we use them, the process, to show our students what we do or mathematicians do when they're working through and solving problems as well. So we thought we'd bring in a piece of media for you to try VTS again using a different type of text.
So what's going on in the image? A lot of lines.
Especially going more towards the west coast.
Yeah.
Okay, so we hear lines going across towards the west coast.
I think, I don't know.
Like targets.
So you're saying it's like targets?
Yeah.
Like going into
across the Atlantic.
They're being yeah, some of them being sent out too.
Oh, so we see them coming in, we see some going out.
Yeah, very few going out.
Very few going out, yes.
Are we not supposed to be reading the text?
No.
No, we're just asking to focus right here. Yeah.
And there are certain cities it looks like that it's focusing on.
Oh, so you're noticing that there's certain cities or destinations the lines are going. Okay. Like maybe San Diego.
Yeah.
There are some dots that aren't getting any of the lines as well.
Oh, okay, so there's some dots that are not getting any attention, right? The lines are bypassing the dots.
Yeah, maybe. As soon as they're touched, they're like, like reverberating out.
So we see something happens as soon as the line hits the dot.
Yeah.
What more can we find in this picture?
It's replaying. Yeah, it's
It's
repetitive.
replaying, it's repetitive.
They're different colors.
So we see different colors.
Yellow, orange, red.
Yellow, there's the orange.
Yeah, it's focused on the United States also because it's all blue, the color blue, and then it's also the same thing with Alaska, so you can tell that there's a connection there with that.
So we see a connection, look at that.
Yeah, that's true.
That's an excellent observation. What more can we find in this?
It looks like the yellow or like all coming in, but then like the orange is going out.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah,
the color might dictate the direction.
Yeah.
Yellow's coming in, orange is going out.
There's some where the circles are touching.
Yes. So we see circles that are intertwined here. Good observation.
Seems to be a whole lot of stuff heading into Silicon Valley.
Yeah. Interesting. So we're seeing a lot going into one place, one area.
Same time as well.
At the same time.
Some of it seems to be bouncing from one circle to another, especially in the center of the country.
So we're seeing attention from one circle to another.
So knowing what you know about Silicon Valley, is there anything you can think about that might describe what's going on in this picture? We see these things moving in, and so, I mean, you might have read the text, but thinking about what that place in the United States represents, what then might we interpret that activity to be?
Something to do with computers.
Yeah, it's something to do with computers or technology. This is really cool. It's supposed to be lifetime, a map of hacking, worldwide hacking, lifetime. So it is repeating, whoever said that, but I think if we had it active on the web, it's supposed to be show real time. Because that's pretty scary, I think. Yeah, and so we could go back and forth between the text and the image. That transmediated activity is another interesting way to look at it. Isn't it fascinating?
Well, and I think if you just focus on this and interpret this first and then go and take a look at the text, I think the power of the message just becomes so much stronger.
I absolutely agree with that. If you just read the text, it wouldn't have the same impact without that map. Like,
you need both. Like if we had all this just missing from here, you would look at this and say, okay, something strong is happening here in this part of this country, something's going on. Now you bring the text in to add to it, and that narrative becomes so much stronger. Just as if Marwa was just saying, if we just took the picture out, we wouldn't get the same impact just with the text. This really supports each other. One of the discoveries Margaret and I made this year, just in casual conversation, is we share our research. So I'm in a 5th grade classroom this year. I've been spending time in a 5th grade classroom. And I didn't go in to study VTS. It surfaced in my research. I went in to study typography with this 5th grade teacher because she uses a lot of history and science and math in her language arts class. Well, all of a sudden, VTS surfaced in the research. I'm like, what is this VTS? And so I'm telling Marva one day, and she's like, well, that's what I've been doing. That's what I've been studying. And so the teacher uses the 3 guiding questions all day long across all the content areas. The students ask each other. It's just a part of her entire instructional program. And the language the students use to describe what they are seeing in the pictures and the visuals, it's just amazing to see how sophisticated they are with how they describe the work that they're looking at.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm capturing.
And I did a research study in a 4th grade classroom, and again, 4th grade teachers, I think of myself still as a 4th grade teacher. That's why I keep saying that. But we studied geology, which is in the science curriculum for rocks and minerals, and I created a visual-based curriculum for them, and it depended on VTS a lot. And the findings that surfaced was that VTS was a really effective strategy for helping students' academic language, especially oral academic language. And so when we used images like this, which didn't reproduce that well, we were able to incorporate academic vocabulary such as streak or Mohs scale. These are ways that you determine the kind of mineral that it is. And so it's very specific to the kind of study that we were doing in the discipline. Another example would be this picture, and the students would use the academic language like sedimentary or erosion in describing what they saw in the image. So a way for them to practice using that language. And then we can even use, and we'll come to these later, but these kind of sentence frames or templates that we give them to provide them with another way to reinforce kind of the grammar of the discipline as well. So one last thing I wanted to mention is that I also in this particular project started to use VTS around artifacts and realia as well. So far we've just talked about 2-dimensional or multimedia but still flat surfaced ways of viewing this. But you can also do this with artifacts. So for example, in the geology study, I was able to connect with someone who was behind the scenes at the Natural History Museum, and she showed us objects and used the VTS protocol as a way for us to discover locally found fossils, which was also part of the curriculum and